One useful facility if you're copying information across onto a new or freshly created NAS, or perhaps just moving information onto another NAS in the same office using a local network, is the remote NAS connection. So for example, in this case we have the multimedia folder, which is pretty much empty, and there is a NAS elsewhere on the network. I use this button up here, remote connection. I can then select remote device protocol or Microsoft networking, FTP, WebDAV. Either all of these work and don't seem to be that much difference in speed when you're using a 1 gigabit local Ethernet backbone. And I then pick my NAS. We have a test NAS over here. There's some information on it. Oh, let me try it. That's my user. Now, by clicking this button here, what it does is it populates this list with the folders that are on that remote NAS that you've just selected. So I'm going to go and pick the multimedia folder and create a remote connection, which appears down the bottom there. And as you can see, I have quite a number of movies and video on this and music. So I will pick movies. I've just gone and picked a bunch of movies. I right mouse click copy, then go back up to my local NAS folder. I might create a folder called movies. Another one called sample. Oh, hit the wrong button. Mouse click, paste, override. Now, okay, so it's not quite the same as if you were copying in Windows, for example. It's creating a single task to copy each of the movies. Now, because these are large files, the copy should start to proceed fairly quickly. I find that with using this type of remote copy between NASes, when there's a lot of small files, so for example you're copying a local network file where there's a whole lot of MS Word documents, some are very small, lots and lots of Excel spreadsheets. The fact that the NAS is stopping and starting and updating its cache, in fact even the PC is doing that as well, because it's stopping and starting to create new files and entries for new files, it's a lot slower than copying a big file. So if I click up here, I should see 5 megabits per second as my transfer rate into this NAS, and I'm using a local area network. Interestingly, if I start another one, I might see an increase in speed. So let's try that. How to train the dragon. Copy. So I've now got two copy processes running. And if I go up to here, yeah, it's peaked up. It's about 7 megabits, or it's going up to 8. And you might find that if you come back in 10 or 15 minutes, it's climbed up a bit further and going a bit faster. Which brings me to another interesting point in relation to the NAS's ability to join two Ethernet ports together as one. There is a facility inside networking, control panel, under general settings, network, virtual switch. Actually, networking is probably available on the menu, just a separate, because it is a separate window. Virtual switch. Before I go into virtual switch, I'll just look at interfaces. It's possible to get two ports connect them together as port trunking. And what they then effectively do is work like one port, like one Ethernet adapter. Now, a word of caution here: the capacity to stream and to get for a single transfer or copy, such as these two here, to be transferred to the NAS or from the NAS at double the speed, is subject to a lot of other factors. And in practice, it is the speed of the PCs, the size of the file, that slows it down from getting any faster than what you can see here, which is coming up to, it's started to go above, get closer to 9 megabits per second. I've seen it go up as high as 15, 20 megabits per second, depending on what you're copying and the size of the files. But the point is, having two Ethernet adapters trunked together also requires you to have a special sort of router installed that supports that protocol, which is something you can find out about if you contact us. The special adapter will allow two devices to copy to the NAS at the same time, therefore doubling the transfer rate, as opposed to the way this NAS is set up at the moment. If I go to another PC and copy its to this NAS, it's really only using just one of the adapters to copy into the NAS. To get the effect of using all four adapters is a bit of a longer topic we have to treat in a separate video, but it requires you to connect and bind those adapters to certain functions, and it does work and it is very effective, but it's a little bit more involved and beyond the scope of this video. The second way to copy information on and off a NAS is by USB. So I've just inserted a USB Go Satellite, Seagate Go Satellite, into the USB 3 port in the front of the NAS, and a few moments later it gives me a little message you might not have seen on the right hand side, and then this pops up asking me what I want to do with this. Do I want to use it for backup? Do I want to use it for external storage? Or in this case I want to use it for copying. So I'll open File Station, and in a moment it will then present me the folder structure of this USB device. I can then go to Movies again, perhaps, and get myself a couple of sample movies and copy those in the same way up to Multimedia, Samples, no, Movies, Samples. Now we'll paste those two movies in there, and so now it should not obviously affect what's going on, what's coming through on the LAN and LAN 2, because they're coming via the 1 gigabit LAN connection to the other NAS. This copy is, by comparison, coming straight in through a USB port, so you can see the copy there. And there's the file. It's copying 1.92 gigabyte. It's already copied 1 or 2 gigabytes of 8. So as you can see, it's going considerably faster than the other ones, which are copying by the LAN. Just wait till they finish. Okay, it's nearly finished. Make note of the time. It started at 13:47:49 seconds, and it's finished at 13:50. I don't know how many seconds. Just looked at the time, so it actually finished at 13:50 and 45 seconds, so around the same. So let's say it took close enough to 4 minutes to copy 8.56 gigabytes. Whereas you can see the two copying by Ethernet are copying, well, combined 30 gigabytes, but this one at least is copying 10 gigabytes. and it's only done a quarter in this since it began, which would, and if you notice that the USB copied after, stop it started afterwards. So considerably faster copying by USB 3 connection. That's all for this section. More videos to come on installation and setup of this TS-453 for a business environment. One quick thing we need to do before we disconnect this USB device is, I'll just close that window, is we need to actually disconnect the USB device, don't we? So if we go into Storage Manager, which we had open before, and we go to External Device, you should see when it refreshes the USB device connected. If I click on it and eject the external device, it disconnects the external device cleanly, so that when you try and reconnect it to something else, it doesn't come up with that message asking you to clean the device.